So in this video, we're going to walk through how to use the economic loss analyzer to analyze an economic loss claim using ClaimCal. So we'll just in a case at the moment, I'll click on economic loss and go new analysis. So it opens a new one here. And so, of course, what we're doing here is we want to compare claimant earnings to what we're saying they would have earned had the bad thing not happened. So first step's, of course, going to be get some data in so we can start to see it. And it really helps when you can lay it out visually. So let's get that happening. We will choose a data set. Let's go to claimant data set and add an earnings period. So you can add multiple earnings periods in sequence, which really helps if, say, you reach the end of your data set that you have available and you want to sort of forecast in the future. You can do that by adding multiple earnings periods in a chain. But let's start with actual data. So usually you will have your stuff from the ATO that you've gone and got your client's actual earnings, or the plaintiff's actual earnings, depending on which side you're on. So we just go add an earnings period, and we can choose what the earnings period is going to be for this one. So let's not need to go too far back to sort of demonstrate all of this. Let's choose something like, good enough. And then we can choose what the data source is going to be. So we can use the Australian Bureau of Statistics average weekly earnings data sets. We can use an estimate. This is really helpful, especially for when you're wanting to sort of forecast impact on future earnings, which I can show a little bit later. And then one that you'll probably start off using straight away, which is the manual upload option. So you can get your clients or the plaintiff's actual data in here and start doing that comparison. So hit next. And so what you'll want to do is just go and download the Excel template. That'll download a template to your computer that you can then fill in with the actual data. And in the spirit of, many TV shows and things, here's one I prepared earlier. So I just go and drag that and drop that in. That will load up there, and it's got the financial year gross earnings and the tax that was paid. And if it has misread anything, if you want to switch it around, you can change what each of those columns is supposed to be, whether it's weekly or yearly earnings or tax or whatever, just to clarify how you want ClaimCal to read that. Then we go import that data. Great. So there we are. That is all that data mapped out for us. Now we're going to want to add in a comparison data set as well. So what would they have earned, we're saying, had the bad thing not occurred? And so we'll switch to comparison data set and add an earnings period for that as well. And it is hopefully sort of matchy that period up for us. So let's go Australian Bureau of Statistics, and we'll choose male. Let's choose all industries, and then let's choose full-time ordinary earnings data set. Add that in, and there we go. We can immediately start to see where the injury likely occurred and the impact on earning capacity that it was had there. And it's really powerful. So just looking at a table of figures, now you can actually see, you can visually see that loss of capacity and the impact that has had. Helpfully, we'll also add in superannuation. We can fiddle with this if we want to, but by default, it has populated already for us with what the superannuation rates were during those relevant years. So let's add it in for both periods now. That's helpful. Another thing you can do, which can be really helpful for comparison, earnings sets, you want to model out whether they would have had, say, promotions or things during certain time periods, or whether there would have been like a break from the workforce or whatever. Or you just want to annotate the chart a bit. So modifiers, handy for this. I can add a modifier in to the claimant or comparison data set. I can give it a label and drop that down. And now I can see some options here. So I want to choose what's the period that we're modifying the data for. So let's go and choose, say, let's annotate when. I'll just model up something for 2010. So 2010, there we go. And just to show how this can work, it looks kind of cool on the graph. And then we're going to modify that data. We're going to say they would have suddenly been earning, say, 10% more. You can see that adjusts now. And to make it even more pronounced, 20% more. So you could say, hey, they were going to get a promotion during that period, or maybe we're going to say that they were going to be out of the workforce, or they were going to have some other disruption to their career and reduce what it was going to be. And then we can add in an annotation. We can say, add that in, click out, and then add that as a note on the graph. And there we go. We can annotate what's happening during that period as well. Of course, hovering over it, we can get what the earnings are. So that is helpful. And of course, we can remove that anytime we want. We can also go and add in, say, other annotations, which may not actually modify the data set, but actually just put a label on there. So say we want to say, here is where the injury occurred, 2004, 5, there we go. We don't have to put anything there. We can just say injury, add that in. I need to put the finished period as well. Put that in there and then just say, good, there we go, injury occurring there. And then we see the deviation in earning capacity. Now, getting down to doing some actual analysis. Oh, just quickly as a side note, we can see all the figures and everything here. So we can scroll through and check year to year, all the data about tax and superannuation, gross earnings, all that sort of gear, all there calculated for us if we want to check for any particular year. Now, coming down to here, we can start to do some real analysis. So what's the loss period? Where I think we're going to say from 2004-5 onwards. Just go to the limit of what we've got the data for at the moment. There we go. It's shown at the top. That's the loss period that we're going to do in the calculations in. And now it's going to show us, help us estimate what the impairment is. So traditionally, this has often been just pulled out of the air, essentially, by various expert reports. But here we can see it empirically because we're looking at the difference between the comparison and the actual claimant earnings, and then ClaimCal is telling us what that impairment percentage likely is. And we can actually start to track that on this loss line. We can say, okay, we've got the loss line turned on. That's the little red dotted line you can see appearing there. So I'll put that in. And this way, we can do a bit of a smoothing out, so we can start to calculate by reference to, say, what was attributable to the impairment of the claimant versus just vicissitudes of life, just ups and downs, things that weren't attributable to the injury per se. So let's go and put in, say, let's try 15%. There we go. And already it's starting to put together the figures for us about their loss. Just doing a straight comparison between the comparison and claimant data sets, and then also doing one between the comparison and the loss line as well. So again, if we had some bumps up and down on the claimant data set that were not to do with the losses attributable to the earnings, the loss line would smooth that out and avoid that making its way into the data, into the loss calculations we want to do. And of course, I can make that a bit more, let's say it's 19, and then really start to follow that line quite nicely. And if we want to, we can get past and future, but already it's quite helpful in the fact that we've gone and got our weekly loss calculations, which we can plug into the damages calculator. And I can go gross and I can go net as well. So we need those net calculations for when we do the damages calculations later on. I can also go and plug in a forecasted settlement date. So say we are hoping to get it done by... Well, actually, we want to show this a bit more on this graph, don't we? So maybe we'll commit some heresy in the meantime, pop that in, and now we're going to get it split into past and future periods as well. So that's pretty handy. It can all be changed as needed. So there we go. So that's a bit of a rundown of how you can start to put together your economic loss analysis. And I think this makes it much easier to communicate with experts and to really show the loss visually. So we can actually print out this chart. We can print out our analysis. We just go here to export, click that button, and out it will come. And we'll get a full report with all the data sets and the charts as well that you can insert into your submissions and various correspondence in your case. So there you go. That is how you can use the economic loss analyzer. And this is just a quick video to show how you can use the earnings periods feature and the estimated earnings function in the economic loss analyzer to project earnings into the future and losses into the future. So we can see it sort of ends off here on the chart. That's the limit of the data that we have, but there are trends. So let's see, we've got the claimant yearly gross at 87,226. I think that's it. Yeah, claimant. Yep. So, and we've got the comparison at 109. So let's go and add on another earnings period. And it hopefully picks up where we left off. Let's project to that. And then let's go and say estimate. Next. And we're going to say the start amount is going to be 109, which is roughly where the data set left off. We're saying this is yearly earnings. We're going to now say that year on year it increases by a certain percentage. Let's start with something conservative and usually pretty reliable, say 3%. And then that increase will get applied, we'll say, from the second year rather than the first, which is usually a good option. Add that on. And I think I picked, I was in claimant. So there we go. You got to pay attention to what you're in. So hopefully another chance to show another feature. You just go delete that one. That sorts that out. I switch back. I want to be in the comparison. That's where I want to be. So let's add the earnings period and do that again. Doesn't hurt to demonstrate something more than once and show that you can fix mistakes. So you don't need to be afraid of trying things. So we go upload. All right. There we go. Mind on the job. Estimate data. Go 109. In fact, I think it was 226, wasn't it? To be precise. You're going to do the increase 3%, start from the second year, apply the increase from there, and then add that on. And there we go. So it may have even been that we should have applied it from the first year. Let's switch that around. And that smooths it right out, and that looks pretty reliable, actually. So that also shows that it's easy to go and make these tweaks after you've done something. This is a big theme of the whole suite of apps, is to put something together, rough and ugly, throw it on the page, and then dial it in and get it just right. And now we can go switch over to the claimant data set, add earnings period. Back, we should just check where we're at. We were at 87,226. So I'll add that in. Earnings period, add in estimate, 87. Yeah, I think that's right. From the second year, go 3% as well. And actually, we want to then modify that. So let's drop that down, apply from the first year, and then that tightens it up a bit more. And we could always make any more tweaks that we feel are warranted, but that's how easy it is to put that in. Then you can start to extend that loss period that you're calculating out a bit further and get that more extensive past and future eco loss analysis done for you as well. So there we go. That's how you can start to extend your analysis into the future past the data set that you have available to you right now.